What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Garden Life podcast. We are the Duff and Dax.
So we're on a journey of discovering what it means to live whole spirit, soul, and body.
So listen along, watch us, and enjoy the journey.
Well, welcome in, everyone.
We are here, episode
Garden
1.
Life podcast.
He's actually a pretty good singer.
Jingle.
We do.
That's not true. Well, welcome to episode 1. This is going to be just a phenomenal episode,
Wow.
I'm sure. This episode's going to be basically an introduction to what is garden life, how did it come about, and then hearing our stories of our journey of discovering, okay, is it actually possible to live whole in all three areas of our life, spirit, soul, and body? So it's going to be fun. Come along on the journey.
Yep.
We'll jump right into kind of how garden life came about.
Yeah, so we met, I don't know, about 4 years ago.
You don't know?
Around that, right? We knew within 2 days of knowing each other that we were going to spend the rest of our entire life together.
Yeah, if you don't know us, we got engaged, married within 6 months, then a month later pregnant. And yeah, so
the rest is history. So we were in Reading and we were sitting in Blake's little apartment, and as you do, took out a notebook, whiteboard, and wrote down, well, basically just started praying and asked God and each other, well, what the heck are we going to do for the rest of our life? What do we feel called to? I'm a Irish girl. He's a Texas guy. We've just come together and let's plan the rest of our entire life today.
yeah, as normal people do.
So that's when God led us to the name Garden Life. So maybe unpack that a little bit for us. Blake,
Yeah.
Duff and Dax.
I mean, that's really where it started. But knowing that both of us really had a heart and an interest in health,
Blake's was
or
new.
getting healthy.
I
should
brought
say,
health.
for
I
me.
brought health to our lives.
Yeah, I was the poster child for the standard American diet. You'll hear that in my story later on.
I was the poster European girl, Blake says. Healthy, looking after herself, come to America. I won't have any.
Well, you still found me attractive.
Won't
and we
have
still
any
got
of the
married,
donuts
so-
that you used to have every day.
Whatever. So we actually both still had an interest. Just one of us was a little more disciplined at the time than the other.
Still am.
But so we just kind of dove into, okay, let's just wipe everything we've ever thought about, wipe it clean. What did it look like when God created humanity? Thinking about Adam and Eve in the very beginning, when God placed them in the garden, what was life like for them?
Blissful. No anxiety, no depression, no lack, no shame.
The best food, the best fruit, the best veggies.
I heard that garlics were literally the size of your head in the garden.
Did you hear that from God?
Adam told me.
Don't know if we could prove that, but it's a fun theory because
Yes.
the soil was so rich that it would produce
All the nutrients.
giant things that could actually fulfill and satisfy you. But so looking at the garden, Adam and Eve did not know a day of sickness. They did not know a day of anxiety, a day of depression. They got to walk with their creator. They got to talk with their creator. It was honestly a setting for perfect peace.
The word I'm thinking of is like harmony, like just
It's a great word.
completeness.
Yeah, it's a better word. Perfect harmony. It was complete satisfaction, complete fulfillment. They had everything that they needed and everything that they would want.
Right.
So it's this idea stemmed from that we were created in the image of God, that God is a three-part being. He's God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. He created us in his image, so we are a three-part being.
Yeah.
We are a spirit, we have a soul, and we live in a body. So we're responsible with these three areas of our life.
Right.
So what we believe is that those three areas working together is where we find the fullness of life.
Yeah.
Because as you'll hear in our stories here in a minute, that if we're lacking in one, it really does affect the other two.
Yeah.
You'll feel it in some other area. It'll come up in another area.
Right.
We think about we are a spirit. This is basically who you are. This is who God created you to be.
Yeah.
When you receive salvation, when you accept Jesus, the Bible says that you are made a new creation. So your spirit's actually made brand new. And your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. That's where they live. And your body is your flesh.
Yeah.
Body is the one that I struggled with. Still do at times. It just, we'll get into it.
He likes his food.
So it's really identifying these three areas and understanding, okay, how can I be the best that I can be in these three areas to live a fulfilled life?
Right. Yeah, so Blake and I are going to talk today about how we lacked in, well, I probably lacked in all of those areas I did lack in all those areas at one point, but we're going to dive into our stories of, how when we lacked in at least one of them, it just trickled into the other areas and it just ruined us, disheveled us.
So, I mean, even just a practical example of this is like the old Snickers commercial. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
Back where you're from.
I do like Snickers, though.
It's the Snickers commercial where somebody's like grumpy or whatever, and then their friend hands them a Snickers, and they're like, here's a Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry. And then they like calm down as soon as they eat. But basically, this is a picture in what I have to deal with most days.
Oh, my gosh.
Vicky is an extreme hangry person.
Everybody is.
When she's hungry,
My parents
it's like the world is just crashing down.
My parents told you when you married me, you got to keep her fed and watered at all times.
That's very true. Like she'll just start panicking and I'm just like, babe, go eat. And
like,
then,
I'm going to die. If I'm really hungry, I'm like, I'm going to die. This is the end.
Yeah.
And Blake's like, when's the last time you ate? I'm like, I just ate something. He's like, we'll eat again. Then I have a slice of sourdough toast and I'm on cloud 9.
Yeah, exactly. But this is like, it's a funny example, but a practical example of like how one area can affect the others.
Yep.
It's like when your body isn't nourished, when you're hungry, when you don't have the things that your body needs,
You get mad.
It starts to affect your emotions.
Yeah.
It starts to affect the way you think and feel.
Yep.
The same with exercise. I mean, science has even proved this now of a lack of exercise can result in depression, can result in anxiety. So we'll kind of get into our stories. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Go first?
I'll rock it.
I think your story's better than mine, so we'll keep them listening.
Nice. Yeah, I'll go first. So I grew up in Dublin, Ireland. Good old Dublin.
Dublin.
Nice. He cannot do an Irish accent for his life. He
It's
can do
hard.
every other one. So yeah, I grew up in Dublin, Ireland, or Ireland for the Americans.
Ireland, yeah.
But
What
I'm
do
never
you
going to
say?
say that again. Ireland.
Ireland.
Yeah, O-U-R. It's
Doesn't feel
Ireland.
right.
I know. Not to you guys.
That's not how it's spelled.
So grew up there, had a very amazing and normal life, nothing out of the ordinary. But I was a deep, deep thinker. I was always wondering what was going on, who was God, where did we come from, what's happening, what's anxiety, what's depression. I just was constantly tinkering away at my thoughts all the time. So I was always trying to find out who I was and what I was meant to do and what I was created for. This was
fulfillment.
Yeah, I was always so positive though. All I would chase was happiness. I just wanted to be happy 24/7. That was all I cared about, was joy and happiness. And I didn't want anything apart from that. So I would try find that in all the things the world said you'd find it in. So being in the right crew in school, going out with the hottest guys.
That took you a while.
That didn't find until I found my American man. Yeah. And yeah, just getting dressed up, trying to look as good as I could, go on nights out, did all the things I shouldn't have done, dated all the guys I shouldn't have dated. And I was an absolute mess, a hot mess. So I literally spent I'll backtrack in a second, but basically from 15 to 25, just trying to find out who I was and where my identity was. Yeah, so I definitely went to town on this. Like, let me tell you all the things I did. So
we don't have time for that.
no. So so after college, I moved to Chicago for a couple of months, which was amazing. Just partied, hung out with friends. Obviously, emotional and hungover for a whole summer. Did not do good. Put on a bunch of weight. Came home. Oh, okay. Well, don't really want to live in Ireland. Sure, I'll piss off to Canada. So I lived in Canada for a couple of years. Lived in a ski town. Lived in Vancouver, Whistler.
Which I'm like the complete opposite.
He hadn't left the United States of America until after we had met. Standard American.
It's a big place. Okay.
God. And well, he says that, and I've been to New York twice, and he's never even been to New York. So
yeah, well.
Anyway.
Different cultures or something.
Very different cultures.
Go on.
So then went to Canada again, constantly trying to find my identity in, oh, well, maybe this guy's who I'm going to end up with, or maybe this job's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, or, ooh, maybe Vancouver is it. This is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'm going to start my life. Nope. So I come home from Canada. I'm home for about a year. During this time, I did a lot of nannying, babysitting. That's kind of what I did. And then I decided, well, the last place I haven't got a visa is Australia. So sure. So, I mean, that's what you just do when you're Irish. So I go to Australia. So
Normal.
I'm like, let's do it. Let's go to Australia for at least a year. But I'm sure I'll be there for the rest of my life because I'll probably meet my husband, get the house I've always wanted, get the car I've always wanted, have the kids I've always wanted, and it's just going to be fantastic. And I'm never going to come home.
Wow, bliss.
So I get on a plane, go to Australia, meet a lot of Irish people over there, have a great summer. But that is when I realized that I was not happy with my body. So I'd always been struggling in my soul. I'd always been an emotional wreck, highs, lows. Highs were always high, lows were always low, but I hadn't really cared too much about my body. But at this point, I couldn't hide that I carried a little more weight because I was in a bikini every day on the beach. It was a good life, but
miserable.
But I realized that I wanted to lose some weight.
Yeah.
So I shared a bed with my friend Rebecca, and she used to get up and go to F45, which Blake goes to now.
Shout out Mark Wahlberg.
So anyway, she used to get up every morning and train and was super disciplined, and I would just stay in bed. So I decided to go with her one morning, and I was absolutely hooked. I loved it. It was, you just go in, you train for 45 minutes, you leave, and you burn an absurd amount of calories. So my goal then came to be, how much weight can I possibly lose? Like I finally wanted to look in the mirror and see a body, the body that I'd always wanted to see. So my goal was to be tiny. That was my goal back then. I wanted to finally be skinny and lean and lose a bunch of weight. So I lost about 2 pounds a week, did it extremely unhealthy, in an extremely unhealthy way, would eat as little as I could and trained as much as I could. I even did it twice a day at 45, which is ridiculous, for about 5 or 6 days in a row. So I finally lose all the weight. Every single day I have a 6-pack, showed it off, would wear tiny clothes, and felt the best I'd ever felt physically.
Yeah, shredded. So
I go home to Ireland and I decide I don't want to nanny anymore. I want to become a personal trainer. So this was a very exciting season of my life. Got my certificate, started a business in Ireland, and I really loved it. I loved one-to-ones.
Which was actually really successful.
Yeah, it was great. So loved the one-to-ones, pouring into girls and just helping them transform their body in a healthy way. It was never done reckless like I had done. But on the outside, I was head to toe in fake tan, hair done, nails done, 6-pack, and just looked like I was extremely happy.
Yeah,
and I was absolutely,
had it all together.
Yeah, and I was miserable. I actually became... This was the most selfish I'd ever been in my life. Like, I don't even really recognize. I just completely changed. I can't even imagine who I became. All of it was just for myself to grow my business, grow my Instagram following, got super into that, wanted to have a big following on Instagram and just live somewhere in the world where I could just sell my programs. So then that's what I did. I decided to move to Bali, Indonesia. I decided, oh yeah, Instagram's telling me that's where freedom is. I remember scrolling through pages and different people's pages thinking like, ooh yeah, with that background, I can get another 100,000 followers. I can get 100,000 followers. Like, let's do that. So
Crazy.
this is when this is just a little bit crazy. I decided to just move to Bali on a one-way flight.
Yeah, that's not a little bit crazy.
That was
psychotic.
oh my gosh. So anyway, I moved to Bali. And when I get to Bali, my plan is to not know what day it is. I just get to lie on the beach, dip my toes in the ocean. My online programs are selling. Everything's great. Anyway, I get there and it is the worst I've ever been mentally. My anxiety is through the absolute roof. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so uncultured. I'm terrified. Like, everything's different and it's just not what I thought at all.
Yeah.
So a few weeks go by. What's next? Don't know what to do. But I end up getting the Bali belly. So basically on the toilet and getting sick for 48 hours. Miserable. I actually remember that I was lying in bed and I had gotten to the point where I didn't think I would make it home. I was violently ill. Probably should have gone to a doctor, but too nervous to, because I don't know what the heck to do, where to go. So I'm lying in bed, honestly thinking I wouldn't see my parents again, but I had done this to myself. I was pushing for this dream so hard that it's my fault that I may die. So I'm at this point in my life, I call it the pits. This is where don't think I'm going to make it. I look back and I'm kind of regretting every decision I've just made, especially in the last few weeks. So I started praying. I've always had faith. I've always believed in God. So I started praying and I audibly heard God say to me, he said, what was the happiest time in your life? And I said out loud, like I was talking to him, I said Teen Street. Well, Teen Street was this Christian camp that I went to in Germany when I was 15. So I experienced so much peace there, so much freedom, joy. I'd never felt anything like that before. Now I've language to, that's when I was in God's presence. But at the time I was just like, Teen Street, I have to go to Teen Street. Well, sure, it's only on in Germany. So somehow I muster up the energy to pick up my MacBook and I type in Teen Street, but it auto corrects to Teen Street, Australia. And Australia is 5 hours away. Europe is not 5 hours from Bali. So I type it in and Teen Street, Australia is on in 7 days. Could not make this up. I checked the year was right. Yes, it's literally on in 7 days. So I decide to email Teen Street.
So you just decided, I need to go to it?
Yes, I need to go.
A kids camp?
A kids
and
camp.
I'm
26, 25 or 26. And I had always wanted to go back as a leader, like a camp leader. So that was the plan. Obviously, I'm not in my right mind or headspace. You should
not be leading anybody.
No, I shouldn't be leading anybody at this point in my life. However, this was it. This is what I needed to do. This is what I wanted to do. So Teen Street say, oh yeah, can we call you? And I'm like, yeah, just give me a day. I didn't have a SIM card. I didn't have an Australian SIM card, so they couldn't call me. So I decided to book a flight to Australia.
Oh my gosh.
So back to Australia I go. I fly into Melbourne, had a friend that was still living there. And the first thing I did was I went and got a SIM card. So finally I could call Teen Street that had given me their number. I called Teen Street, whoever picks up the phone, and I said, hi, no, but in Australia, would love to be. Went when I was 15. And they said, wow, we have been praying for one more volunteer. We need someone to work on the front desk. I know that you had said you wanted to be a camp leader, but this is what we need help with. And I said, I'm on my way. So I had to go and buy appropriate clothes because I haven't been around Christians in 10 years.
Just wearing bikinis and stuff.
Yeah, I just had all my Bali stuff. So I went and go and buy a hoodie and leggings and Ugg boots and all the cozy clothes. I rock up at this camp And I'm not joking. It is the best week of my entire life. I'm around I don't know if anyone else, it's probably a little hard language for Irish people, but I'm around these Christians and I'm telling you, it was like family. It was like being back in this cozy little bubble that everyone loves you and everything's going to be okay. So I go to the first worship night. It's basically a big room and they do some worship music and there's a speaker on stage.
Yeah.
So this is for the teens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting beside teenagers. I'm 26, they're 15. I'm flashing back all the time to when I was 15. And someone gets up on stage and they start flashing images of what the world says freedom is. And it's these beaches. It basically looks like Bali.
Yeah, everything you've been chasing.
Everything I've been chasing.
Yeah.
And it's basically like, you will not find any freedom here. Like the only place you can find freedom is in relationship with the Lord. And I was... at that moment, someone said, you weren't created to live a life without God. Like you were not created to live a life without him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, great. No wonder I've had this void in my heart my whole entire life because I wasn't created to live a life without the person that created me.
Yeah.
Someone else said on stage, they said, you are not defined by what anyone else thinks of you. All image broke off my shoulders. This was for 15-year-olds. Yeah. I was weeping.
It's not even like some profound statement.
No,
but
I was.
If you don't, yeah, it is when you're in that though.
I was weeping.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of me. Like I am, well, at the time, I'm Vicky Kirtland. I am beautiful. I am whole. I'm amazing. I've just wasted the last 10 years. Basically for me, so I became a Christian when I was 12. And then you can hear from my story, I didn't live the best life for 10 years. And here I was giving God my second yes. But I was like, oh, I am never going back. Heck no. Yeah. I'm never going back to this world ever again. So here I am, a completely changed person. I fly home to Ireland and all my... I'm going to say like my high school girlfriends who knew me, have known me my whole life. They were like, oh my gosh, you're back to your old self. Like Vicky's back. Wow. I was no longer selfish. I was no longer chasing the things of the world. They all knew that I had had faith. I mean, some people do back home too, right? But it's something that I had always had my whole life. So I text every Christian I know when I get home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm back. And they're probably like, are you sure we've been following you for the last 10 years? But anyway, that was... the next year, I spent a lot of time by myself. I had gone through this crazy, crazy transformation. And I just spent a lot of time by myself, healing from every single relationship I'd ever been in, from everything I'd ever done that I shouldn't have done. And I really just got to a place in that year, it took me about a year, where I started to feel pretty whole and pretty good in spirit, in soul, and in body. And my identity wasn't in anything of the world. And I started to really enjoy thinking like, who am I? I had a new confidence and I was just ready for what God had for me. I no longer wanted to live this amazing, crazy life that looks so perfect in the outside world, but I was miserable. I was like, okay, God.
Well, you did do it and it was empty.
And it was empty. And I was like, okay, God, so what's next? Like, what do we do? And this is probably for a different time, but he literally led me to go to Bethel. I meet my husband 2 weeks into school. We get married 6 months later. We get pregnant a couple of months after that. We move here to be part of our friend's church. Anyway, I'm sure you guys know a lot of that, but my whole entire life changed. Finally, when I was whole in spirit, soul, body, that's when I got to like, just take a breath and just think clearly.
Well, you finally had peace.
Finally had peace.
Which is what you were lacking the whole time.
Yes. Well, that exactly sums it up. I was looking for peace my entire life, thinking, where does this come from? Yeah. And the 15-year-old me in Teen Street, I'd say, was just bawling beside, watching me being back in Teen Street, 26 years old. So that's just a little bit of my story. But as you can hear, I was lacking in 1, 2, or 3 my whole life.
Well, even like how we can see like what somebody looks like on the outside. It looks like you had it all together. Even following you on Instagram, it looks like you have the best life.
Right.
And it's like you're just tormented inside. You're just riddled with anxiety, with, dissatisfaction and lack of peace, and it's affecting you emotionally,
Yeah.
causing anxiety, causing all these things because you didn't have peace.
Right.
Which is so interesting, and we'll get into this way more in depth in future episodes, but just even how science has proven like a lack of peace can actually manifest itself in your physical body
A sickness.
as sick, like it can show up as sickness or even anxiety.
Yeah.
Like you can we know if we've experienced it before, which I have, is like you can physically feel anxiety.
Right.
And that's because it's a result of a lack of peace.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, well, come on, Texas man, take your hat off and tell us your story.
Well, my story,
it's a little different.
Yeah, my story isn't as mine's more natural, which
He worked in a church for 9 years. He was a good boy.
yeah. So I wouldn't say I had the other areas down. It's a journey. We're all growing, and we all have room to grow. But the main area I was lacking.
Tell him you grew up in Amarillo, Texas, youngest of 5 boys. Give him a little history, just real quick.
Yeah. So grew up in a town called Amarillo, Texas.
Is it the way to Amarillo?
Yeah, which
Every
never
night
heard
I've
that
been
song until I
hugging
met
my
Irish
pillow.
Phil. So youngest of 5 boys, amazing parents. My brothers were punks. No, they were cool.
Brought up Christian.
All
really.
close. Yeah, brought up Christian. Pretty much grew up in church. When I graduated high school, I just was always drawn to church.
Yeah.
Loved being there. Loved. Now I have language to is just being in the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just love learning more about Him, encountering Him in different ways, growing in that area. So pretty much as soon as I graduated high school, I knew I wasn't going to go to college. Knew that wasn't for me. I just started volunteering at the church and then eventually started working there. Worked at a church in Amarillo for 7 or 8 years. And then that's when I went to the same school that Vicky ended up at in Redding, California, where we met. So I've always, my journey's basically,
Polar
I knew,
opposites.
yeah, like I knew who I was. I was secure in who I was. And, but the main thing I was lacking was this area of body, my flesh. Specifically, I just love food. Okay. I wasn't like huge, but I knew I wasn't disciplined. I knew
He would eat fast food pretty much 4 days a week.
like, I love to work out. I would work out all the time.
Yeah.
But I worked out so I could eat whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
So I didn't look the best. I wasn't healthy by any means, but I just lacked discipline. Like I would try to do diets all the time, which surely somebody out there can relate. Like you just go and you buy spinach for the first time in 6 months and like, I'm going to eat so healthy. And then it just ends up being a bag of slime in the bottom of your fridge. Like you never ate it.
Can you tell them about Chick-fil-A?
Well, basically, if you don't know, if you're not from America, people say Chick-fil-A is God's food.
They're lying.
And I believed this lie for a long time.
Chick-fil-A is like a very fancy burger.
I would eat
King,
Chick-fil-A probably at least 3 times a week.
and it's vile.
So it's not healthy. It's not healthy.
No, it's like
It's a chicken sandwich.
it's like McDonald's. It's gross.
Well, anyways. So I would go to Chick-fil-A. Here's an example of my discipline. I'd go to Chick-fil-A, order number 1 Chick-fil-A sandwich, waffle fries. And then they think I'm done. I'm like, yeah. And then for dessert, I'll also have another Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Trash.
And then you get the Chick-fil-A sauce, and it really is a delusion of a heavenly experience.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways, this was my journey of just lacking in this area and not realizing what all it's affecting in my life. This actually was a big surprise to me. So when I moved to Redding, I was about 20, 30 pounds?
Probably 30 pounds heavier than now.
Yeah, 30 pounds heavier than now, which on
Still
my...
freaking hot though.
Whoa, you're damn right. So on my body, my short stature, it doesn't look good. Just look like a bowling ball, okay? So I knew when I was going to Reading, I was like, okay, I haven't been disciplined at all. I need to get my life together. So when I moved there, I was like, I'm going to start working out, eating healthy, going back to tuna cans, plain chicken breast, ground beef, all this stuff, thinking I'm getting healthy. And I was losing some, but was really trying to get my life right in the area of body. And 2 weeks into school, Vicky and I meet, and she was plant-based at the time. Mm-hmm. So she starts cooking me these meals. So I'm eating these meals she's cooking, and I'm like, these taste 1,000 times better.
Right.
Like, I don't think I could eat another chicken breast. Like, it was just disgusting. And then I was like, yeah, and I don't even remember the last time I had a vegetable. Gosh. Like, thinking I was healthy. So
I didn't even know what half the things I was putting in those bowls were.
Yeah, there were these things called vegetables. And so she starts cooking me these meals, and I'm just loving them. So I'm just eating what she's making. And about, I don't know, probably a week, I just start realizing how much better I physically feel. Mm-hmm. Like, my body's actually getting what it needs or has needed for a long time.
Yeah.
Nutrients, I think, is what the scientists call it.
And his fingers were shrinking. They were a little swollen when we met.
Yeah. Okay. Minor details. But
well, you were looking a lot better and feeling a lot better.
Yeah. 100%. So the first thing I noticed was like, I don't feel like I have to take a nap after I eat a meal.
Never heard of that before.
Americans, come on. Thanksgiving for one. Like,
okay,
you have a
Christmas
Thanksgiving meal, and it's like, okay, the first thing I want to do is take a nap. But sometimes you just have those meals that you're like, I should probably take a shower too, and then take a nap.
Absolutely gross.
You just went in after it.
I hate when you say that.
It's disgusting. So the first thing I noticed was like, I don't feel like I need to take a nap after I eat, which is the sign for a standard American diet. So started feeling better, having energy throughout the day. Didn't want to fall asleep at 2:30. Just my mind was clearer.
Yeah.
And then,
well, one thing you said that was super interesting was you don't feel as frustrated. I was like, wow, that's like your mind was sharper. You didn't seem as like irritated or frustrated.
Yeah,
not that I'd seen that, but you were just explaining how.
Yeah, I was like, all of a sudden I had more patience, and I was just really surprised how it went into what I now know my soul.
Yeah.
And like, so overall just started feeling amazing. My mind was clear. I wasn't as tired. I wasn't as lethargic.
He could move quicker.
Yeah, I wasn't as just straight up. I just wasn't as lazy.
Right.
And I didn't actually realize that I had gotten to that point. It was just something that gradually happened that I just started being okay with.
Because you were pretty healthy, a pretty like spirit, soul, body, a pretty healthy person. So like you didn't know until I was feeding you those nutritious meals that you were even lacking in body. 100%. You didn't even have language to that.
Yeah. And so consciously, after I started feeling better, I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to commit to this. Like, I'm not going to do this as a diet because I've never been able to diet. I can do it for a little bit and then I quit and then I go. So I was like, I'm like, this is going to be my lifestyle. Like, I want to be healthier. So I was like, started this plant-based journey and went completely plant-based. Didn't go to Chick-fil-A again.
Just side note, we're not plant-based anymore.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in more episodes, which will be fun. But honestly, going plant-based for this period of time completely changed my life.
Right. It was what you needed, the discipline you needed of how strict that had been, because you never had cut out meat or dairy before. And it was honestly, you were having bad meat and bad dairy with antibiotics and stuff pumped in it. So you did need the break from that.
Yeah. The truth was I was never able to say no to food.
Yeah.
I never had the discipline to say no.
And then you'd said when you said no to food that it affected everything, wasn't it?
So when I made this conscious decision of this is what I'm going to do, I started to be very disciplined in saying no to the things that I really loved food, loved Chick-fil-A. But the thing that I was so surprised about was when I said no in the area of body, it actually went over into all the other areas of my life and helped me say yes to the things that I needed to say yes to.
Right.
and even no to the things that I should have said no to, like reading my Bible more or having conversations that I need to have, and just discovering more things about myself, addressing other things that I didn't know were there. It just opened up more discipline in every area of my life.
Yeah.
And I just became healthier in all three areas because I was eating better. Like
Right.
it was such a surprise to me of when I finally got disciplined in the area of body, how much it enhanced the other areas of my body.
Yeah.
To where I felt like, wow, I'm actually living this fulfilled life. Like I may not be completely whole in all three, but like I feel 1,000 times better
Right.
just because of one discipline in one area. I was completely shocked. So, these are examples of our story, two extremes
Right.
of just what can happen when we get a hold of all three areas of our life. What can happen when we're aware of the area of body? Like what can happen in our emotions when we actually start being disciplined in how we eat?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're plant-based, if you're carnivore, if you're whatever, and we'll get to that like we said. But are you making a conscious decision and making healthy choices?
Yeah.
Because you'll be shocked of what it does for your mental health.
Right.
And the same thing of if your mental health is out of whack, if you're whatever, you're not gonna be able to make those.
You're not going to be able to get out of
discipline-
bed at 6 a.m. to go do a workout.
You're gonna start indulging in your body because you're
Right.
lacking in your soul.
Yeah.
If you're dissatisfied, if you're not happy where you are in life, if your soul is struggling, you're not gonna have the power to say no to things you should say no to. You're actually gonna find comfort in those things.
Yeah.
So this is the journey that we want to bring y'all on, of just having these conversations of what can it be like for us to live healthy spirit, soul, and body.
Yeah, and we have just learned so much along the way. We cannot wait to unpack everything we have learned. I want to do a whole episode on magnesium because it has changed my life and multiple people's lives.
Yeah.
But we have just honestly learned so much that so there's natural things we can do to help ourselves, spirit, soul, body, and there's just other things we can add in to just to help us get there as well. So
Yeah, even just a little teaser for future episodes of just like thinking about the systems that are in place in our world.
yeah.
Of like, okay, maybe we weren't designed to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day under fluorescent lighting. Maybe that's actually hurting you.
Sitting is the new smoking. Get up and move every hour.
Like these are the conversations we want to have, or the fact that there's a system that we're all a part of that wants to keep you sick and on medication every day of your life.
Yeah.
That should not be the norm.
We're definitely in this circle of not getting healthier. Like if you don't actively try and not eat a standard American diet, it's going to be a lot harder to stay healthy.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah. So we're just starting to unpack that at the moment, and we're loving it and helping each other and keeping each other accountable. But yeah, definitely follow us along. We want to tell you about when we were in that plant-based, we were living that plant-based lifestyle and then transitioning out of that, and just some clean, healthy animal products we've added in. Yeah, it's so fun. We could talk about this forever.
Yeah. We might.
We should. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed listening to this, please like, subscribe, all the things, and leave any questions, any comments, anything that you are so interested in that maybe we have mentioned or haven't mentioned for future episodes. We're just honestly ready to roll. We're so excited to share this with you, to be on this journey together and with other people, because every single week we're learning so much, and we cannot believe the stuff we're learning and how we need to tell the entire world, because we should not be the only people that are researching this. Everyone needs to know.
Yeah.
So we're so excited.
So thanks again for joining us for episode 1. We're so excited just to be, like Vicky said, starting this journey with you all. And we just can't wait to see what it's going to turn into and all the things that we can just discover along the way.
So just make sure you tune in for our next one to see what it's like to continue living a garden life.